Vinyl Collection Part 51. Continuing on with all of the new additions in my vinyl collection of the letter being C. And other than that, what's going to be playing in the background is going to be this full length by Deneri Volanti titled Devant le Miroir, which hopefully I said somewhat correctly. Apologies to all of my French-speaking viewers. But I have been spinning this legitimately every single day this month. I try not to get too in-depth with my personal life here on YouTube, but I have been stressed out of my mind with so many things happening right now. I'm not going to go in depth with it, but I've just, again, been stressed of a combination of so many things. And this album just seems to be like such a stress relief for me that I'm just, again, spinning it legitimately every day. That honestly, when I'm stressed out, my playlist tends to be anything that isn't extreme metal. That, if I had to make like a chart of everything I've been listening to in the month of March, it's basically been like all different Deneri Volanti albums, and Jedi Mind Tricks has honestly been like the only two things I've been really jamming out to. But for those who don't know, Deneri Volanti is kind of like this Marshall industrial project that has elements of dark wave, synth pop, and to an extent like neoclassical music. And with this album, he really went like full force on like the synth pop aspect, that it gets really pop fueled everything. That I would almost call this like Marshall pop music, just really infectious stuff that every melody and hook has just been drilled into my head. And as I stated, I've been kind of like addicted to this. Hell, even before recording this video, I was spinning this just one more time. But if you want to score a copy, Tesco has copies of this, and I would strongly recommend you get them while they're still available. Kicking off Part 51 is going to be Circle of Dawn with their debut full-length album, Northern Slavonian Black Metal. These guys are based out of Finland, and it's a pretty safe bet to assume that they are very sketch, as there is a strong essence of nationalism in some of the lyrics, mainly because of one song just simply titled Not Muslim. They're just not really a big fan of, I don't know, that religion intruding on Finland, so it's a safe bet to assume they're quite sketchy. But I got this a while back secondhand because this is blacklisted on Discogs, and someone messaged me that they had a copy and bought it for a pretty, honestly, steal of a price. I think he kind of like undersold it to me. And yeah, been wanting this for a while, but it's been long gone out of print. Darker Than Black put it out, which probably is a more of a safe bet to assume that it's, you know, again, sketch related. But the best way to describe Circle of Dawn is it's a mixture of like the attitude of Pest Noir meets the aggression and guitar riffs of Hate Force. It feels like a mixture of the two. And honestly, this album is really good overall. But yeah, other than that, for the layout and packaging with this, you have album artwork, backside with the track listings. Comes on a gatefold, along with a big-ass booklet with just lyrics and artwork inside. And it just comes on a standard black vinyl. And the last bit of sketch will be the follow-up full-length album for Circle of Dawn, that being Slavonian Supremacy, which now they make it pretty on the nose where they are politically with that title. But yeah, it's just basically a continuation of what they did from the previous album carried over here. The only difference that I notice is that they slightly add in more aggression, that now it just kind of sounds like a straight-up Hate Force sounding album. That was kind of a bit of a letdown for me, honestly. They kind of sacrificed all the unique attributes they did with the previous album in favor of just more aggression. I don't know. Still good for what it is, but nothing I would recommend over the previous album. As to where you can get copies, I'm not sure. Maybe New Era Production still carries copies. That's where I got mine. And yeah, other than that, for the layout and packaging, you have album artwork, backside with the track listings. Comes on a gatefold, along with a printed inner sleeve, one side with credits, other side with additional artwork, and this just comes on a standard black vinyl. Next record is something completely different in every which way possible from the previous two, that being Clipping. This is their EP titled Wriggle. Now, I basically have everything that you can get of Clipping's discography on the LP format. All that I'm really missing is all their releases that never got a physical release. And back in 2021, Sub Pop finally put this EP with a vinyl press and snagged it up right away. Now, this release has all of the components that you're used to hearing with Clipping. It's a very edgy, dark, and abrasive take on hip-hop music, but all the tracks compiled on this release, they side more on the noise aspect. Songs on here like Backup 2021, Wriggle, Hot Fuck No Love, Our Time, and the track Shooter, which is such an infectious track. It's probably one of my favorite Clipping songs. You can tell they really went for more of like this, again, noise abrasive approach here, and it's just so killer. Really, honestly, Clipping's never done anything below average, and I'm always pumped whenever there's a new Clipping material or re-releases to come. Still waiting on them to do a physical release for Mid-City. Still waiting on that. But yeah, as to where you can get this, I know Sub Pop put it out, and more than likely they still carry copies because they always keep Clipping merchandise in stock or in print. So again, go to Sub Pop if you want to score a copy of this. But as for the layout on packaging here, you have album artwork, backside with the track listings. Comes on a printed inner sleeve, and this vinyl press is the limited variant on marbled green LP. I also have the soundtrack to the movie Cobra. Now, this was originally my dad's vinyl, but after going through his attic at his house, I realized he still had some of his old records that he totally forgot about, and he didn't want any of them. And when I saw that he had the Cobra soundtrack, I had to snag it from him, and he was totally fine with it. I mean, it's kind of in rough condition, but for something that was put out, I think, 1985, I think is when the movie came on. This is an 86 pressing, from what it says. I mean, for something that's over a century old, I mean, it's kind of in decent condition. But yeah, as some of you guys know, Cobra is one of the most unapologetic 80s films you can ever watch. Because I think that's kind of as to why it has like a cult-like fan base still to this day. Because if you want like the apex of 80s macho cheese in an action flick, this embodies that from beginning to end. And the reason why I bring that up is because the whole soundtrack is just unapologetically 80s. Songs on here like Feel the Heat, Skyline, Angel of the City, which, come on, if you can't jam out to that song, you gotta be just dead inside not to like want to bop your head to that track. Just everything about this is just 80s macho cheese overload, and that's what gives it such charm, and I love it. But yeah, one of the very few soundtracks that I have in my vinyl collection, and one of my personal favorite soundtracks for films. But yeah, other than that, for the layout and packaging, as I said, it's kind of dated and beaten, but you have album artwork, backside with the track listings and a few shots from the film, and just comes on standard black vinyl. Proceeding on next to an essential for Dream Pop, that being Cocteau Twins with their album Heaven or Las Vegas. Sadly, as of right now, this is the only LP I own within the Cocteau Twins discography, and I need to get more of their stuff because honestly, some of their best material came around the portion of like the mid-80s of their discography, most particularly their album Treasure, where they go down more of the darker sounds of like dark wave and post-punk, a blend of that. And it honestly has some of their best instrumentals they've ever done. Whereas Heaven or Las Vegas, I believe this was released in 1990, is a lot more lush, vibrant, colorful, and welcoming, because again, they go down more of a dream pop route here. And one thing that they're mainly known for, and I know there's just a shit ton of internet memes, is that the singing is all done for the most part in gibberish. Like there's no real like distinct language they use, and I don't know, it kind of gives it like its own unique charm that really I don't know, really helps out with like the really lush and ethereal nature that Cocteau Twins usually does with their music. And I don't know, it just adds to the surrealist effect. But how I discovered these guys, funny enough, it's quite a handful of years back. I think it was either I was like on a date with like an ex-girlfriend or something like that, and we watched that movie S. Darko. I know it's like the sequel to Donnie Darko, which Donnie Darko 2, S. Darko, whatever you call it, just not a good film. But the one thing I remembered from that film is the opening section within that movie. Heaven or Las Vegas played, and at the time I didn't know who Cocteau Twins were, but I was just like, what is this? Like, what are they even saying? And that's how I discovered these guys. And again, always wanted, material of them, but I always thought I would find it in a record store. And it wasn't until last summer when I met up with some friends in Philadelphia. We stopped by a record shop there, and Lord and behold, they finally came across a record store that had Cocteau Twins vinyl, and got it immediately. But I know this has been repressed quite a handful of times, so it's pretty easy to get for the most part online. But yeah, again, need to step up my game with getting more of their material. But yeah, other than that, for the layout and packaging with this, you have album artwork, backside, comes on a printed inner sleeve, and is just on standard black vinyl. Next record is a pretty recent purchase I got from last week, that being Colter Wall. This is the debut full-length album by Colter Wall. Now this is a country artist that I remember back when this got originally released back in, I think, 2017. Everyone and their mothers was talking about this album non-stop, that it kind of resonated with the metal fan base. And I think a few reasons for that is not only is this album kind of dark in nature with its minimalistic approach for country music, with like the lyrical themes having like this dark edge to it, but the dude's voice is just so deep and robust that it just sounds old. I mean, this guy, I'm pretty sure Colter Wall is like, what, in his like early 20s, singing on this album, and he sounds like a 60-year-old. Like, it's really something that you have to hear to believe it. And I think what he really does in terms of his music is he carries out the spirit of Johnny Cash, most specifically like the American Anthology, that albums that Johnny Cash did shortly before he passed away. Colter Wall takes that spirit onto his music, and it's honestly phenomenal stuff. Songs on here like You Look to Yours, Snake Mountain Blues, which is my personal favorite song, Motorcycle, 13 Silver Dollars. Excellent stuff that I don't care if you're a country fan or not, check this album out because it's really, really well done, emotive, dark country music. And I can already hear it now because when I posted on my Instagram that I got a copy of this, so many people were recommending me Benjamin Todd, which he's definitely on my radar to get a record by. But for the time being, I've just been jamming as well a lot of Colter Wall, along with Deneri Volante and, oddly enough, Jedi Mind Tricks. Quite a weird combination, but again, that's kind of been my playlist. But yeah, other than that, for the layout and packaging with this, pretty bare bones, but really easy to find if you search online if you want to score a copy. You just got album artwork, backside with some pictures and the track listings. This also includes an insert with just lyrics inside, credits on the other side, and it's just on a standard black vinyl. From country music, we now go to folk music, that being Comus with their debut full-length album from 1971, First Utterance. And let me tell you, For its time, it was quite the oddball, and even for today's standards in 2023, half a century later, it's still very wild and just different from anything else you'll really come across, as it's like a mixture of psychedelic folk and progressive folk music. But even then, that's just not really a good enough description to tell you what's being played here, that I've seen people describe this as freak folk, which is a different description. But the best way I can summarize this is think of the Wicker Man soundtrack, but it's just darker and scarier is what this kind of like sounds like. And again, it's one of the very few albums I would tag under as a masterpiece. And it's a really important album too, when you look at its history as to how it really influenced the style of music we consider to be neo-folk, as David Tibet from Current 93 has cited this as one of his inspirations, and even Michael Ackerfeld from Opeth has stated that he was quite inspired by this album. Just again, overall, if you want something just different and kind of like cutting edge for its time and just for music itself, check this album out, because the string arrangements and how everything's played out, it's just so unique, and I'll just leave it at that. But songs on here like Diana, The Herald, and my personal favorite song, Drip Drip, so worth it, so worth getting this. The only thing I'm bummed about with this release right here is that I unintentionally got a bootleg, sadly, because I came across some random distro located out of Texas that had a copy, figured I'd score it for retail price, and I get this, and it just happens to be a bootleg because all of the official presses from the first press to repress come on a gatefold, and this isn't. It's a single sleeve, so not my intention, but sadly I got a bootleg. But best bet, I guess, go on Discogs if you want to get original pressings or, you know, official pressings. But yeah, other than that, for the layout on packaging here, you have album artwork, backside with the track listings, and just comes on a standard black vinyl. Up next is the debut full-length album by Cosmic Church. Now, I've been trying to fill up all of the releases that I'm missing out in the Cosmic Church discography, because I know recently this got repressed, I believe, by Amorpha T, if I'm not mistaken, and just snagged a copy through them, and I'm pretty sure copies are available there. But this really isn't Cosmic Church's best material, as, again, it's just their debut. They're kind of just getting known and their feet wet with releasing albums, as it's atmospheric black metal, and that's kind of it. There's really no standout portions other than it just has all of the attributes you're used to hearing with this style of music. But yeah, overall, if you want some of the best atmospheric black metal to come from Finland, check out the later releases by Cosmic Church. And again, as I stated, really only got this to be a completionist with their discography. As for the layout and packaging with this, you have album artwork, backside with the track listings and band photo. It also includes an insert sheet with lyrics on one side and the band logo on the other, and it's just on standard black vinyl. I also scored one of the EPs by Cosmic Church, that being, I believe, titled Viglia, and this is where their better portion of their discography lies within. So I feel like anything that of their releases that has this red hooded figure on the album artwork is their best material, as it's just way more lush, atmospheric, and just written better. I know it's kind of like a lame description to just say it's better, but there's a reason why more people gravitate towards these releases. And yeah, as I stated with the previous album, I really just got this to be a completionist, because their last album that they did and the one before that being Ulysses, as I stated before, some of the best atmospheric black metal to come out of Finland, hands down. And Cosmic Church definitely has a respected reputation for a reason. But again, just like as well with the previous album, got this through Amorpha T because they did some represses, and I would go there if you want to score copies of this. But yeah, other than that, with the layout and packaging with this, you just have gorgeous photography throughout. So here's the album artwork, backside with, again, this red hooded figure. This also includes an insert sheet, that being lyrics, which is just all unfinished, so don't understand a lick being said there. And the backside of that is just more photography of that red hooded figure, and just comes on a standard black vinyl. Proceeding on to one of the OGs of satanic music, that being Coven with their 1969 debut full-length album, Witchcraft Destroys Minds and Reaps Souls. Now, this is a really interesting album and band that I don't really feel like gets enough attention, and they're only recognized when people tend to go back in the history of like heavier music, of most particularly like occult rock, hard rock, and even proto-metal, that I've seen some people label Coven as like the first heavy metal band that predates Black Sabbath for a few reasons that's really odd. Like, it's almost like a weird coincidence. For example, released back in 1969, previous to Black Sabbath's debut full-length album, that being released in 1970, and the opening track on this album, as some of you guys know, is titled Black Sabbath, and this individual right here, who's the bass player for Coven, his name or stage name is Oz Osborne. Kind of weird of a coincidence that it lines up like that, but whether it be that Black Sabbath mysteriously copied them, or it's just like a very odd coincidence, it doesn't change the fact that I feel like when it comes to just the idea of occult rock and what they were doing back in 1969, this was really pushing the boundaries, because around this time period, again, religion, especially Christianity, it was kind of sacred and like really frowned upon to talk down upon it. That I heard that when they were trying to sell this album, it was kind of like blacklisted from just being sold in record stores, that some shops had to actually hide the copies that they had to the public, and you could only like come across them if you like knew the person. It was quite ridiculous. But the thing that really blows my mind about this album is the vocalist. I believe her name is Jinx Dawson. In this release, she's 19 years old. If you look her up, she's 72 years old, and she still looks the exact same. What the fuck is this woman doing? Because I don't understand how you can be 70 and still look like how you were when you were 19. That freaks me out. But anyway, yeah, if you want just, again, a really interesting album for its time, and arguably like the first band to create occult rock, check this album out, because it's really well done. Occult rock, and just a really awesome, evil, satanic rock band that I know they're also credited as being the first band to throw up the horns. I know people usually say that Ronnie James Dio was the first, but from what I've seen in interviews, Jinx confirmed that Dio took inspiration with throwing up the horns by them, which is pretty cool. But yeah, great stuff overall. The only thing I have to say that's negative about it is the outro is just this satanic mass that goes on for like 13 minutes, and it's just kind of dumb and edgy. But again, back in 1969, this was like, whoa. But yeah, as to where you can get this, got my copy on Discogs. I'm pretty sure there's copies floating around there that you can search up online. As for the layout and packaging with this, it's pretty cool. So you have album artwork, backside again of the band photo. This comes on a gatefold, and it also has another page that folds out with all the lyrics. And this LP comes on lime green and baby blue swirl. Back to black metal. Next up is Craft with their third full-length album titled Fuck the Universe. Pretty on-the-nose title, as it perfectly explains what this album sounds like. It's just super hateful and super aggressive and raw, black metal from Sweden, simply put. And I was really surprised to see that when I went to Armageddon about a year or two back, they had this bad boy, and it's a first press, and snagged it up right away. But yeah, Kraft's formula for black metal has always just been super straightforward, and I think that's why they have kind of like a respectable reputation when it comes to Swedish black metal. But yeah, definitely check out Fuck the Universe along with the previous two, that being the debut, I think, titled Total Soul Rape and Terror Propaganda. Just very straightforward and ass-kicking, hateful black metal. Everything else after this, I know they did 2 full lengths after this. This is where they kind of lose it. I'm not really crazy for it. And I'm also sad to say that when I caught these guys live in 2016, it really bums me to say because it was their second show they ever did. But it was kind of a letdown, which sucked. But if I ever catch them live again, hopefully they can give off some of the essence that they give off from the studio albums. But yeah, other than that, for the layout and packaging with this, you have album artwork, backside with the track listings. Double LP, one of them is on standard black vinyl, and side C and D is a picture disc, so you have a picture of one of the members right there. Looks really cool. And the other side is just the album title that, again, one says, Fuck the Universe. Continuing on with even more black metal, that being Cult of Fire with their first ever release they did, titled 2011, that was released in 2011. And I gotta say, for someone who's been a fan of Cult of Fire, this is really, really weird to look at, seeing them in the most stereotypical like image for black metal with the corpse paint, the bullet belts, the skulls, and the blood. It's just very stereotypical, whereas most people know Cult of Fire with them being all dressed up. They have like the Buddhist type of imagery always surrounding the album artwork, and they've gone through quite the transition. But I remember back, I think in 2021, because it's probably a 10-year anniversary, they finally gave this demo the LP treatment off of their label called Beyond Eyes, I think is the name of it, and got it obviously right away. And even though this isn't going to be known as like their best material, or this is what they're known for, it's cool to have both for being a completionist and to just hear how much they've changed throughout the years, because not only in terms of image is it like the stereotypical black metal look, but sonically and musically, everything you're familiar with black metal, it's kind of what they did here. So not much to say, but again, owned it for more of like the completionist sake. But yeah, other than that, for the layout and packaging with this, you have album artwork, backside with the track listings, and this LP variant comes on red and black splatter, limited to 300 copies. Then I have Cult of Youth. This is their second to latest album, being Final Days, released back in 2014. Now Cult of Youth is a pretty unique band as it blends both like punk rock and neo-folk elements together. And with this album right here, Final Days, they really go down more of a punk rock direction with like some folk interludes played throughout it. That's really gritty but also lush at the same time. Not their best album, but I got this for like a discounted price on Sacred Bones Records. They were selling it for like $12, and I'm pretty sure they still have copies, so it's a steal of a price. I know it's kind of a short album, it's a little bit under 40 minutes, but songs on here like God's Garden, Down the Moon, and Dragon Rogue. Pretty good stuff. Again, if you want a mixture of punk rock and neo-folk, definitely check out Cult of Youth. But as for the layout and packaging with this, it's pretty bare bones. You just got album artwork, backside with the track listings. Comes with an insert sheet, both sides just have lyrics, and is on a standard black vinyl. Second to last for this vinyl collection part is going to be Cult of Youth once again, but with their album With open arms. My album of the year for 2022, and man, everything about this album, both musically and just the product of this LP set in terms of presentation, is all nothing short of incredible and stellar. Because Cult of Youth, again with this album, blends styles of punk rock and neo-folk, but with this album they included a strong essence of psychedelic rock, and it just makes it all the more lush, vibrant, and really ambitious, to say the least. Because songs on here like Shadow Force, Flowers of Essence, Climb the Wall, which is my personal favorite song, Final Kingdom, which is another awesome track, The Flame is Dead, Beyond Self, Awakening Part 2, I See Fire, which at this point now I've already said like 2/3 of the songs on this album. It is just all nothing short of incredible, and it was worth every penny I paid for this vinyl set and every minute I waited, because this got delayed quite a bit by Hospital Productions, and I can see as to why, because the presentation and just layout with this, they spared no expenses. And if you can still score copies on Hospital Productions, do it while you can. I know it's quite pricey, but with everything it comes with, it kind of evens out, to say the least. But as for the layout and packaging with this, as I stated, it's incredible. So you have album artwork, and what I like about the material here, it's very like heavy duty, has like this velvet type of layout with the jacket, and the album artwork is kind of like glued on, so it feels like more like this paper-like painting, and they have like this gold print with all the lettering, which just makes everything pop out more. And same basically with the backside going on here with the lettering. This also comes on a gatefold with all the credits and spot gloss going on right in there. Again, layout looks phenomenal. It also includes a 2x4 massive poster of the album artwork. And I was lucky enough to score the limited vinyl variant of this album that is on white, black, and blue swirl, limited to 300 copies. And the last record for this vinyl collection part will be Current 93 with their album The Light Is Leaving Us All. Sadly, this is the only vinyl I have by Current 93, so I need to step up my game. But to my amazement, I scored this at Newberry Comics, out of all places, a record store that I never thought would carry anything like this. But yeah, for anyone who's a fan of neo-folk, you should know Current 93 and David Tibet. Saying that you're a fan of neo-folk and you don't know Current 93 is kind of like saying you're a massive fan of black metal but you have no idea who Bathory is. That's basically what you just said. And I know it's kind of like an acquired taste at first, because one of the standout things about David Tibet is not only does he experiment a lot in neo-folk, but his singing it's weird. I know it's kind of like, I forget the name of like what exactly the style that he does, but it's a type of singing that he's also like talking at the same time. It's kind of like this talking singing. It's weird. It's more of like a narrative, his execution with it. And I remember at first I hated it, but when you hear the music being played and just the overall dynamics of Current 93, it tends to just oddly make sense. And I don't know, I tend to just follow along with everything more. But I would say this is, no, not the best album by Current 93, but it's one of the best albums to start off with if you want to get familiar with it. Because it doesn't deviate too much into these weird like rabbit holes that David Tibet does with a lot of his experimentations. It's more straightforward. There's a lot more hooks and melodies that just makes it a bit easier on the ears. So yeah, if you want to get into Current 93, this is another great album to start off with. But yeah, as to where you can score a copy, Again, Discogs, I hate that I keep using that website, but I don't know really any labels that actively like stocks up current 93 records other than David Tibet's own web store. But even then, just everything in his web store is like sold out. So again, go to Discogs if you want to score a copy. But as for the layout and packaging with this, you have album artwork, comes on a gatefold with a band photo inside. This also includes a booklet that folds out, so you have all of the lyrics for every song. And this LP edition comes on white cream vinyl. And that'll do it for this vinyl collection part. Like always, everything I talked about will be linked in the description below, and that is that. So like always, guys, make sure you guys drink plenty of water to stay hydrated, and have a great day.